just in case I talk later.
Yes, no, we've got you. Hello, Maeve, Gabby, Jyotika, everyone else. Alan.
Sarah.
Hi, Alberto, Carmen, Sundara, Sal, Mark, Sukin, Sam.
Hey, Joe. Sundara made it.
Yeah, thanks, Mom Betty.
Ajahn is ready. Sawadika, Ajahn.
สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะอาจารย์
อาจารย์
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์
Can I say something?
Yes, go ahead, Nina.
Yeah, yeah. I have a point. Yeah,
Go ahead, Nina.
yeah. Well, we often hear just study life from moment to moment, and it takes time. But many people, when they hear the word study, they will believe it is thinking. But even on the level of pariyati, the beginning level, intellectual understanding, I believe that it is not just thinking, but it is, I think it's useful if Ajahn can elaborate a little on this, because there are misunderstandings.
I think that we think a lot about everything. For example, right now, we think about what people think, but what about this very moment? What is there? Can it be known? If it's not known, how can there be the understanding of what we say, life?
But know the present moment, and people are wondering how to study the present moment.
One has to be so true to the truth. What is there at this very moment? Is there anything or nothing at all? What is there is the answer for understanding life of this very moment. What is there? Otherwise, how can there be the understanding of life? Because life exists only in just a moment, right now.
There is seeing. So people have to start seeing.
Is it true that seeing has condition to arise?
The eye sense and visible object and karma of the past. And
For us to arise, we have to consider little by little about the absolute truth, which is so very subtle. Conditions for the reality, that particular one, to just arise. That's all the function of conditions. So at the moment when there's seeing, it has arisen and then gone because of it as nati paccaya, and so other paccaya they're unknown yet, because there's not enough understanding of that which is now seeing at all. How come? What is its nature? Can it think? Can it like? Impossible. Even what is so very familiar in life as I or things, it does not appear as it is. And as it is the absolute truth of its nature, which no one thought about it at all. That it's there, no one at all, but it's the moment, a moment of seeing. At that very moment it sees, because it's the moment of seeing. So seeing is a reality. it sees, or we can say that it knows or experiences what is there as it is. It cannot think about shape and form or anything. It just arrives to experience, which means to know what is there as it is only that. If there is more considering about the truth, there can be the understanding of the other reality, which is not seeing, but what can experience arises to experience, because that can experience a reality. Can anyone stop that reality not to arise and experience? Impossible. Why not? Because now it's there already. Who can change or who can do anything? It's there already. That's why what is there is there by conditions. It cannot be taken for anything permanent like eye or flower or anything at all. But its nature is not known. It's covered up by the rapidity of the succession of moment to moment of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking all the time. So how come to even pay attention or just think about that? What is its nature? The reality now which sees, what is it? As much as it is, it's the moment of arising and experience. If it does not arise, there cannot be anything seen at all. But because of that, arises from moment of birth, on and on, arising and falling away, non-stop at all. That's why everything appears through eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, or even mind. Just thinking about that. See, without that reality, which just arises to experience, how can there be such situation, such story, such thinking or thought about this and that in much different from moment to moment, on and on and on, non-stop at all. So to understand the truth, why it arises and then keep on rolling on very rapidly until the moment when it cannot be perform the function of just this accumulation of what it's seen, what it's heard in this life, no more. The end of that series of arising and falling away experiences, what one takes for what is there in life, different events and so on. See, just go on non-stop all the time, unknown, not understanding anything, or when hearing something about the truth of it, beginning to consider what is true. So what is true cannot be changed. It's the absolute truth. It's now. Who can change seeing to be other thing else? Who can change that which is seen to be other thing? Impossible. But it passes on so very quickly from moment to moment with the idea of something or I, because of not understanding the truth of what is there as it is. That's why we learn to understand. How come to hear the words of truth of what is there now? There must be the one who has enlightened the truth. How can we know? Listen and consider whether it's true or not. And that is the beginning to understand the difference between ignorance, blindness, and understanding, which is like light. Never before to understand what is there, as it's the world of nothing. Because what is there must be only one moment of experiencing one object at a time, only one, not together at all. But this rapidity of the arising and falling away so very rapidly, that's why it formed up the idea, the thought about from one moment to another moment to be different shape and form at moment of seeing, to remember the shape and form as something different all the time. But it has to be from one moment at a time. So many moments before it can be made up as shape and form of something. Is this not true? Or is it this moment now? That is the beginning of to be true to the truth, so that there can be more understanding of the truth as it is. Little by little, just to let go wrong understanding and ignorance. That's all.
Ajahn, you just mentioned nati pachaya, the absence condition. And what do you mean by this in this connection?
Turn on your mic, Ajahn. Thank you.
Yes, sorry, I forgot again. Yeah. So we know that when we talk about the reality which experiences each one, except only the last moment of Arahata, who doesn't have any condition to condition the arising of whatever is there as usual as Dhamma. So even right now, the moment of seeing, there must be a reality at that very moment which sees, a reality which sees, no shape and no form at all, just arise to see. So we call that quality, the characteristic which just arise to see, or whenever it arises, it has to experience an object that it's a reality. No one at all, no legs, no arm, but it's a reality, is a reality. It arises and experience and then gone away. That's why in each citta, we call it, please, everyone I think that knows about the word we use, citta. Each citta has one condition. As soon as it has fallen away, it conditions next moment instantly, citta to arise. And also cetasika, citta and cetasika arise and fall away and condition the next one. No one can stop. Why? It's now, this moment. It's not just a moment seeing, but it's now, next moment after those moments. So it proves that actually no one can do anything. But as long as there are conditions for the arising of a particular one, reality, it has to arise, not the other, just there. So it can be understood, it can be proven, it can be thought about to understand whether this is true or not. We don't talk about anything which is not there in life, but we are talking about what is there now to begin to understand that there must be the reality which experiences and no one can make it arise, but it's there by conditions. Later on, after we understand better, we can understand the conditions just for that to arise, each one as it is. Very natural, because no one at all. For the question, how can I live when I understand that actually there's no me who can do this or who intend to do that? Before there is the understanding of whatever is now, life goes on. You don't have to worry about how will it go, or how can it go after understanding that actually there's no one. There are conditions for everything to arise, for sure. But what is different is the understanding of the truth of each moment, and moment when there's no understanding of anything at all. As it is, as this very moment, the truth of this moment.
And Nina, in terms of the present moment, I think it's helpful also to think in terms of having a better understanding of the present moment. If we say study the present moment, then it implies, or can be taken to imply, some kind of focused attention. But that's not the intended meaning, of course, because as soon as that happens, then it's a kind of practice. So rather than talk about studying the present moment, we can think of it in terms of understanding more clearly what is the reality of the present moment. Yes. And the conditions for this, as we know, are hearing the teachings and considering what has been heard. And that is a kind of study, if you like, the consideration of the teachings that one has heard and understood. But again, not a deliberate effort, something that is a natural consequence of one's interest in the teachings.
Yeah, people think you have to do something so often.
Yes, and so as soon as there's the idea of how to study the present moment, or how shall I study the present moment, it's not pariyatti, because it's not the understanding of what is now, what is conditioned at this moment. Behind it, it's the idea of, like you say, of doing something. So study is always understanding, not I can do something.
Something, yeah.
Yeah,
So
because
it's not like conventional ideas of study at all.
yeah, like yes, like when even a Buddha is saying that do that, do this, it's not mean that someone to do, but all a Dhamma that perform its function. It's still we all still have a lot of ignorance and attachment that can do in every day. Single asava can come ooze out, but actually nothing can be done because all are Dhamma. So can you do Dhamma? No.
So that's why as soon as there is the question, how can I, how should I, how can there be the study? It's not the understanding.
And that is the characteristic of what we say, sila pata pramasa. Because as soon as one heard this word, one would like to find out what is it. It's not the gross, wrong understanding. People take this and that to be refused and so on. But it's the moment of even very slight misunderstanding. That is sila pata pramasa. So what is there in the book is there in real life, each moment, depending on whether there is understanding of each reality as it is or not yet, even just that which arises now and experience. What about moment of thinking about this truth in a day? Usually not at all, until there's talking about it, that which is the faculty, the chief of experiencing. So it's not that which cannot understand, or that which can understand, or that which like or dislike. Just that which arises and experience instantly and then fall away. This is the absolute truth. To begin to understand, actually, there's no one at all. But all depends on more and more understanding enough to let go little by little until the object can appear a little clearer by different levels of understanding, until it opens up or reveals itself, not like this moment at all. How can it be just like moment when everything just continues from moment to moment in life, non-stop, appearing as something, the world of nimitta, shape and form and idea and situation all the time? When there is still this idea, it cannot let go any ignorance, wrong understanding, attachment, conceit, and whatever is there in daily life as someone or something from life to life. And this is the way to implant confidence of the truth of reality. It creeps on, crawl on, move on slowly to the way which can experience the object as it is, experienced by those who have developed parami enough to condition such moment to arise by conditions. So it conditioned more confidence of the truth. And begin to understand that even sila pata pramasa can arise anytime when there is wrong understanding of the path, not developing just the understand, to let go wrong understanding, that's all. Very natural, just like that. As usual, just like that. And all Sankhara Khanda, Cetasikas are performing their function unknown all the time, as no one and no thing. That's why when we talk about anything, we can talk about just one reality in order to understand it clearer, to let go wrong understanding.
For example, Jyotika, you were asking last week or the week before about intention and right intention. And you asked if it's a factor of the Eightfold Path, but it's not a factor of the path. There is no Sama Chaitana of the path. And if there's the idea of having an intention to do something, like having the intention to study the present moment, this would be an example of what Ajahn was just mentioning, the Silabhata Paramasa, the wrong, clinging to wrong practice, clinging to the idea that I can do something, not the understanding that whatever has arisen now, like the seeing has fallen away, the hearing has fallen away. No one can do anything to be aware of it because it's gone already. Its absence, nati pachya, completely gone.
And that silabhata paramasa can be translated as ritualistic behavior. So any ritualistic behavior, like, well, whatever many people do these days, fits into that category of silabhata paramasa.
And in order not to have wrong understanding, Buddha pointed out it has to be eradicated by sota patimaka citta.
But I learned from a monk that he said with the walking meditation, there is an intention before every movement. There is an intention before every movement. Otherwise you would not move. There would not be moving.
What for?
So it's, I can understand when there is no I, there is no intention. The two together, that I can see. But so many different ideas.
But Jyotika, intention arises with every chitta, every moment of consciousness. So he is correct insofar as he's saying that there cannot be walking without the intention to walk. But to say that intention is a factor of the Eightfold Path, that is not correct.
Can we say that moving is moving? It cannot be other thing. But what is moving? Otherwise, there can be about the idea of moving, but what is it? How can it not be anything as whatever is there? Just arises by conditions and it falls away instantly. When will there be such strong understanding, very firm confidence of that? So no matter we talk about moving, no matter when and where and what is it? Otherwise, it just have intention just to offer something without any understanding at all about moving. So what's that? Move, I, see? Because there must be the idea of I move because it's my leg and so on all the time. What about the understanding? When it's not I, what is it? It's so real, it's there, it cannot be changed at all. So it has to be from the very beginning, what is it? No matter move in the temple, move at the meditation center, or moving to this or that doorway or so on. What is that? This is the way to understand what is right and what is wrong. Not just follow, just moving. Everyone say, just moving. To understand moving, impossible. Because there must be understand that very moment of moving, what is there.
And Jyotika, I think you said that if there's intention, then there's an I. And I can understand why you would equate the two, because intention is one of the indicators of the sentient being, of course. Well, consciousness in general is, but specifically intention. But the question to be considered is this intention, is it something that is controlled by us, by a self, or is it another mental factor that arises briefly and falls away with each moment of consciousness by conditions? So that's the real question. Not intention means I. Intention means sentient being, yes, but the question then is the nature of the sentient being. Is there an essence somewhere that persists? Or are all the mental concomitants momentary and fleeting and conditioned?
So I cannot have an intention.
Well, every individual has intention, and we think that the intention is mine, and I, if you like, control or direct intention this way or that. But the idea we have of intending to do something is not what we mean by the mental factor of intention that arises with every moment of consciousness.
And is that intention is Chetana? That is Chetana, the leader of the 50
Jetasikas.
Jetasikas.
Yes. Well, it's the one that consolidates the ones that do arise and in a moment. But I'm just talking about the image we have of intention, or how we refer to intention as being something that is considered and directed by us. But there's also the mental factor that's just a moment of intention that arises with every moment of consciousness. The two are not the same.
Jyotika,
I try to understand, but it is so much. I cannot follow that so quick. If you say there's different intentions, different kind of intentions, John.
I'm saying the conventional idea of intention is quite different from Chetana, the mental factor.
That I understand. That I
Yes.
cannot follow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But I learned to see the intention. There was an intention, then we should see the intention before the movement.
why is that?
if you know that there is an intention, if the intention is not there, then it is not, then if you, I don't know.
What's the point of trying to see intention before an act?
That you see better what is going on.
This is not the understanding that the Buddha taught about.
I think also it's seeing the intention. What is meant to be is that you can see the intention is not self. So if you try to see the intention, it can be shown that the intention is not self. That's
It's just going on.
That's the point.
Also, I think, Jyotika, when you talk about seeing the intention, and I think you're confusing it with awareness of what is happening at that particular moment, what reality is arising at that particular moment. And it's you say, oh, I want to know what's happening. I really want to know. You're still thinking in terms of an I who has to know. And it's not, it's the conditions are there, how much will be known and understood by understanding. Okay, that's it. There's no I that understands. It only is a mental factor that arises and understands. And this happens because conditions are there to make it happen. So there's nothing that you can do and say, oh, I really want to do it. It doesn't work. You can't do that. The only thing that we can say in the conventional sense that we can do is to listen and to think deeply about it, to really consider and think deeply about what's happening at a particular moment.
So I can see there is an intention, but I cannot have an intention.
Okay, but intention in this case is just a mental factor. It is not an I. It is not a person saying, oh, from now on, I'm going to do this. No, it's not that, okay? It's the idea from that particular cetasika that arises in the mind that says, do this, okay? It doesn't.
And thanks, Mark, for your comment. And I think that explains something I'm familiar with or aware of, that this kind of approach is given as a form of practice to see that intention is not self. Unfortunately, it's misguided, because when we look to see the intention that is arising before any action is done, what we are seeing is not actually the mental factor of cetana. It's just catching one's own thoughts. And these thoughts are not the reality of cetana. And thoughts, as we know, are just ephemeral things. They're not realities of any kind. So the focus is misguided there. And in fact, if we do that and we think we are seeing the impermanence of intention, then it's very unhelpful. It's a wrong practice, and it actually strengthens the idea of self. Okay, I do this, I see that, I choose this object, I see such and such. So I think it's best to just consider what are the realities that do arise and discuss their different nature.
And Jyotika, I would like to add is that intention arises with all movement of consciousness, because if there's no intention, other cetasika, mental factor and consciousness chitta cannot arise. So intention perform its function. So intention, it does show that it is a Dhamma. Like, for example, phassa, contact, has to arise with every kind of consciousness, every moment. Otherwise, then that's how Dhamma is.
and trying to focus on an object, no matter its intention or anything else, with the idea of self. I can focus on it. I should try to understand it. It's like accumulating more and more idea of I, and I that can control for the purpose of understanding there's no I. So actually it's the wrong path, the wrong way from the beginning. So this is an example of Sila Bhatta Paramasa, wrong practice, trying with the idea of self to focus on a particular object, to be aware of it.
And if we look in our daily life, I mean, if we are not Sotapanna, even a slight of thinking of doing already Sila Paramasa. So actually in everyday life, mostly also associate with wrong view, wrong practice.
Even like now, even trying to be aware of the reality being discussed, or it can be so very subtle. Even now, it's not just those other people, it has to arise, because as Ajahn stressed, it's only eradicated at the stage of Sotapanna. So more and more subtle kinds of wrong practice, even now during a Dhamma discussion.
And each reality that arises, for example, visible object, lasts for 17 mind moments, 17 moments of citta, and each citta is accompanied by 7 universal cetasikas, mental factors. And each citta itself is subdivided into other moments, micro moments of the arising, the present, and then the falling away. So to actually pinpoint a moment of citta, or one of the 7 universals, such as volition, cetana arising, is impossible.
Yes, any effort to see a chosen reality is doomed to not succeed, because realities can only be known by panya. So, and panya can only arise by conditions. So when there's an attempt to see a reality, it's not the reality that is the object of the attempt, if you see what I mean, because realities are not known conventionally. It's just our idea, like intention. We have an idea of what intention means conventionally. We try to see it. Nothing to do with cetana.
Actually, nothing can be done, no selection. When we saying attempt, the person is doing that, doing this, it's all Dhamma that perform a function, not that. It's because all of us, we have accumulated so much ignorance and wrong view, and we think that it's me or I that do, but to eradicate those thinking is a long time of development of Panya.
And also, Jyotika, you might want to consider this, that intention, as has been said, arises with all chittas. So when intention arises with a moment of understanding, it performs its function with understanding itself, and itself is kusala. When it's dana, the intention is also kusala. So one might ask, what you might want to ask, when you have the intention to do something, is that a moment of understanding? Is it kusala of any kind? If not, then what is it? Is it with ignorance? If it's with ignorance, then how can that be a factor of the Eightfold Path?
Oh, and by the way, please excuse me, panya is a mental factor, is a cetasika also.
And I think someone last time, maybe it was Wilhelm, mentioned a common idea of lobha to positive things or lobha to kusala being of value to lead to more understanding, or starting with meditation in order for there to be more understanding. But this is like saying start with the wrong path and then it will turn into the right path. But actually starting with lobha, starting with the clinging to the idea of I can practice or I can study this or that reality, just leads to more and more wrong understanding. So the right understanding that may arise at other moments is in spite of the wrong understanding, not because of that lobha or that wrong practice.
And actually, it's a very good point you mentioned, Sarah, because usually people say that there's attachment to do good, but akusala cannot lead to any kusala.
And I think that the point that Tanajan made was a very good reminder that silabbata paramasa, the ritualizing of the path, and it can take, what Nina mentioned earlier on, it can be quite subtle when we use the word study. That can be a kind of ritualizing also. So the path is subtle, and there's different types. There are many different types, or we could interpret the path wrongly in many different ways when we ritualize it by having to do something. It's very easy to become ensnared in doing something. It's quite subtle, and I think it takes a lot of careful consideration to really understand what the right path is. So easy, it seems to me, to slip into this silabbata paramasa. I think it's a good point that Tanajan made.
But is it then possible to answer the question, what is there now? What is there now? Is that possible to answer, or is that also that it's just going on? Is there seeing? There is seeing.
Is it
So
for the
But it's not
purpose?
seeing an intention and seeing an intention, or seeing whatever seeing.
Excuse me, it's seeing intention.
No, I think so. There is an intention also
What
for seeing it.
It's not intention, but what was it? Now it sees for sure.
It's
Nothing sees, only that reality which now sees. And what is meant by seeing, the object which is there is known, clear as it is an object, not with any right understanding about it, but just appear clear, not with understanding, but its characteristics show up clear to seeing only. Because among the series of seeing, the process of seeing, there is only one moment which performs the function of seeing. So the function is different from other function, because the other citta cannot perform this function at all. So what sees now is only one moment which performs that object, while the others arising experience the same object but cannot perform the function of seeing. Begin to understand. It's not anyone, it's not intention, or it's not pasha which perform the function of seeing. The citta itself, and only one kind of citta, the vipaka citta, conditioned by many other conditions, so not just one or two conditions. It's there now, unknown. So the point of listening to what it is as saying is to understand that actually it cannot be anyone or anything, cannot be any self, because it's conditioned. If that does not arise yet, where am I? And what are taken to be this or that, people and so on. Where are they? Only one moment at a time, and then condition the next moment to follow. When it's the same doorway, it experiences the same object but different function. To understand more and more that what is the point of listening to whatever it is, comparing to just watch it or try to find out or try to move and to understand what condition moving, to understand that before understanding. It's only the idea, not the understanding of the reality, the actual reality, which is different at all from one another. For example, seeing cannot be passa, cannot be intention of whatever Buddha taught can be studied to understand their differences, even they do not appear today or now. But one day, when it appears, right understanding can understand it instantly. Otherwise, what is there is not known. So it's me or mine or whatever as usual. That's why listening to the truth, just to understand the truth, no intention to catch or to know this before that, or don't understand at all what is moving. See, it's moving through at moment when it's moved, not the other moment. But what is that which move? In order to understand no thing and no one at all, no matter it can experience or it cannot experience, it cannot be taken for the nimitta of soul, many different things. Actually, only one reality cannot be changed to the other at all. Just one hardness cannot be sweet. See? So if one is not exactly experienced to be known, can it be clear understanding of its nature as it is, as that which experiences or that which cannot experience? Even we use the word, it cannot experience, it's hard. But hardness, there is something. When you ask someone, what is that? They can say what it is, soap or pen or whatever. But actually it's hard, only hard. And it's there only when it appears. At moment when it does not appear, who think that it's still there? It's only thinking, only idea. But it's there when it appears only. So where it's gone, when it's not there, experienced, never to return. And actually, the rapidity of the arising and falling away of each reality is so very, very rapidly. That's why just form in the world of ignorance, in the world of nimitta, of one reality and many realities together as something. One reality is that there is seeing right now. The citta which arises before seeing does not appear. The citta which follow the seeing does not appear. So it's the nimitta of a reality which experiences, even we don't call it citta, but it's that which experiences an object. But each one is not known. What is known is only that as the nimitta of the reality which experiences now. So the world, the true world, the absolute truth is much different from what appears, because now what appears as nimitta or nimitta, not the truth of the nature of it, as not is that to be taken for this and that from moment of birth to death. It can lead to more confidence, and the object can begin to show up little by little. And it is clear that it is different from moment when there is ignorance and clinging all the time.
Kanachan, and when like you ask, like, is it anyone sitting here? We know that they are all just Dhamma, but that is just only intellectual understanding. It's still me that's sitting. So it just shows that ignorance is so deep with the wrong view, and it's so hard to understand, so hard to eradicate.
So you begin to understand who was the Buddha, who the Buddha is, the enlightened one. What does it mean? Enlightened. See, not just thinking, considering carefully, enlighten the truth. And the truth is that what is that cannot be taken for anything. But now, window, bed, and so on, many things taken. Just that which is seen, but not one moment, while the other moment of experiencing does not appear at all. Only nimitta of everything, nimitta of feeling, nimitta of sanya, memory, nimitta of whatever is there, nama and rupa, everything. That's why panya can develop little by little, but sure and more confidence of reality, which is studied, which is beginning to understand it little by little. For example, what is moving? See, ignorance cannot know at all, but right understanding, understand it from the very beginning until it's there, never change, exactly the same. But right understanding is there to let go the clinging and ignorance of that object.
Like,
I understand the confusion when Jyotika mentions that the monk has intention before moving, because when we read the Visuddhimagga about going and every step, it is in conventional language and in a conventional way of saying. And when people read that, I really can understand that it must have, that people have confusion when we read those texts.
That's why we learn to understand how much ignorance, not understanding anything by oneself at all. Even it's there, read, heard, it needs careful understanding, wisely to understand the depth and the truth of it. For example, how come nothing at all, only that which experience and object is known, it reveals itself. Nothing at all, no rupa at all, only that arises and experience. And that moment, what is the object? The experience, but not one, the nimitta of that which arises and experiences in split seconds. But it can be known as nimitta.
But how should we see those texts in the Visuddhimagga when it is spoken about conventional ideas?
What about just one reality arises and then fall away instantly in a moment? Is this what we are talking about? Just one moment of experiencing the reality which experiences. Because now, no matter how many different kinds of the realities that can experience, but no understanding of any, they are together like one all the time. Like now seeing, no understanding directly of phassa or vedana or sanya or feeling at all. But they are there at moment of seeing. So only that which appears to as one object at a time, while the other are there, but anyone which is not there as object cannot be known. That's why study and understand which appears in order to understand the truth of it. For example, we think that there must be intention, but not just before moving, any moment when the reality which arises and experience, now we'll use the term citta. At any moment citta arises, there must be intention, which is not citta, but it's a condition for citta to arise. But they are different by the chati, whether it is conditioned by kamma to be vipaka, or whether it's conditioned by upanishya or other pajya to be kusala or akusala or kiriya. See, otherwise they are altogether not known. So how can there be the eradication or the elimination of wrong understanding? Take the whole for something in life. Born in this world and die in this world. But actually what is there, the truth of it is covered up from life to life. So that's why don't underestimate just one reality. Should be studied carefully, even the word, the reality which experiences an object. What does it mean? No shape and no form. And when it's the object, no rupa can be there as the object. So what is that? The reality which experiences an object. But still, they are different. Sometimes it is feeling, pain, a pleasant feeling. Sometimes it's just attachment, wanting. And sometimes it is doubt. What is that? See, by conditions, each one is there to be known as it is, as not me, but there is me who is thinking about that. What is that? See, that's why learn to understand each one as it is differently, because citta cannot be cetasika at all. And cetasika cannot be the chief of experiencing the characteristic of the object clearer than the other many factors which arise with it. See, so true now, any moment. That's why no selection at all. Depend on conditions to have more confidence of the truth of anatta. No thing, no one, only different realities by condition, arising and falling away, never to return. So it can be developed very gradually, implanted to even in daily life. There can be a moment of it's so as it is, never change, to be different. Just wake up and then experience, and then sleep and wake up again, and many experiences, and then sleep again and wake up again. And what are those which have been experienced, never to return at all? So this is developed little by little to see life as it is, but still there is the self there, because what is there is not known as it is. For example, sanya, acetasika, that which remembers, arises with each citta. See, so many realities from moment to moment unknown. That's why in order to have less and less attachment, there must be less and less ignorance about that which now is appearing. So each word should be studied to understand it. Otherwise, it's there, ignorance, clinging, and doubt about that. So we shouldn't just let go or neglect this or just want to know that. Whatever is there should be understood, should be object of understanding, of finding out. Otherwise, why Buddha taught for 45 years to have less doubt, get rid of it until it can appear as it is. No doubt, no ignorance, which hinders or covers up the truth. That's why even moving is said, is taught by the Buddha. What's that? And I there doesn't see that no matter what the answers from his word, the Buddha, about is there, which is true. If you change your object, is that clear? What is that which moves? And why do we think about intention? Because intention arises with each moment of citta.
Yeah.
No matter sitting, moving, dreaming, thinking, it's their intention. So when one tries to understand intention before moving, is that wrong or right? Can it be understood with such ignorance and attachment? Just want to know only that, not right now. There is intention too. That's why when we talk about intention, there can be clear understanding of that which, what we say, or what would use the term intention. Reality for sure. That's why, before all, is there intention? What is it? whether it is wholesome or unwholesome, or what conditioned it, to understand more and more, better and better, to let go the clinging at moment of understanding only. So only the moment of understanding can eliminate wrong understanding and ignorance until it's gone little by little. No more. Otherwise, what about those who do not understand the intention and the moving? Can understand that it's not self, there's no one at all. Because there must be doubt about it, on and on. Not about this, about that. Not about that, about the other thing, all the way. When there's no understanding of the truth of any reality as it is, to understand that when it is a reality, it cannot be taken for anything or anyone at all. No one. And is that not the point? Is that not the absolute truth that should be known until it's there, experience? And it
Ajahn,
will be from this moment on until it's there.
I wonder why the Visuddhimagga stresses so much the conventional notion.
Because usually people just use conventional term, but no understanding of the truth. But when there is the understanding, we use the same conventional term, but there is the understanding. For example, moving one's hand now. See, it's there, right? It moves already. And shouldn't we use the conventional term as usual? But the truth is there. And what is the truth? That's why even Buddha used the conventional term for everything, for all the truth. Ariya Satya, Satya, and Dhamma, and Magga, Samma Sankappa, and so on. See?
Yes, like Buddha say, me, I, or you, Sariputta, Mokkhalana, but all are just, it's a conventional, but we know that there's just a reality, Dhamma, no one.
Nina, Nina, which particular parts of the Visuddhimagga did you have in mind?
Many passages about setting a step and going forward. There are many descriptions of that.
In a day, right? Step forward in a day, or not in a day.
In the day.
See, not special. See, reality cannot be changed, should be a special one.
Ajahn, I think what Nina is trying to say is that in a day, of course, we move, but nobody thinks about the step, the foot, or anything. But in the Visuddhimagga, they talk about these details. So why is it that they're mentioning all this?
That's why we talk about what is moving. See, it will lead to understanding this point when we know what. See, if we don't know, it's already moved.
Achan, like moving, it has to be chitta, thinking to move a hand or walk.
And who knows that chitta, it's gone, but it conditions such body to move in that way. By condition, see, can you not just step a little and move until it's there? But in a day, no one think about that. It's move until it's there. Just be there instantly, but actually it's not. It has to be step by step.
But the chitta.
Ajahn, are you saying that as one's understanding is more developed, these details become objects of understanding more and more?
No expectation for anything, but no doubt about the characteristic of each reality as it is. no doubt about the characteristic of seeing, or that which experience, or the intention, or attachment, or viriya, and so on. See?
So
Different
when
rupa, see?
So Achan, what you're saying is that if there was enough panya, we would read these passages as the example Nina has come and have no doubt. We'd understand why it has been stated as that way.
Certainly, certainly. That's why one can read without any understanding and take the whole Tipitaka as Buddha tell us to do this or that, see? But what he said, what is right and what is wrong, what is wholesome and what is not wholesome, and what should be, see? It depends on anyone's accumulation. He cannot say or ask anyone to do anything at all, but to understand that by conditions. This is his word.
But if
So
there is
anyone who just want to be unwholesome, like Derati, the other belief, see, who can change them? Even Buddha said, what can I do?
And I think if one reads the text carefully with the commentary, it's all made clear, like when it talks about when the bhikkhu is going, he understands I'm going, and so on. And the text makes it clear that it's not just the common idea that even dogs and anyone knows that they're going, that who goes, it clarifies, is not a person, not anyone, and it just refers to how cheetahs condition the various rupas and so on. So even at this moment of moving my hand, or when Nina lifts a cup of tea, conventionally we say I'm moving my hand or I'm intending to drink my tea, but they're just different cheetahs conditioning the rupas. And in between, countless moments of seeing and hearing, different kinds of feeling, different ways of thinking, each cheetah rising and falling away rapidly. So the Buddha talks about all kinds of common daily situations, going to the bath, going to the bathroom, putting on one's robes or clothes, walking, to show that actually there are just different cheetahs and chaitasikas that are taken for a body or for someone who moves. So he talked about the realities to dispel the idea of someone who can do anything.
I think Jyotika had a point. She wanted to say something.
no, only that there was, if there is a cheetah from seeing, there's also the 6 chitasikas at least. So that is not, that is ultimate reality. That is
And
not,
actually in life, from moment to moment, there are only ever ultimate realities.
yes,
Like
yeah.
Ajahn referred to the kusala, akusala, vipaka, and kiriya cheetahs. The kusala and akusala, which are cause, and the vipaka, the result, and then the kiriya cheetahs, which are not cause or result. So
Yeah.
whether we're talking about moving or having a discussion or whatever the topic, actually they're just different cheetahs, chaitasikas and rupas, which are conditioned and rise and fall away by different paccaya, by different conditions.
So then now I understand that there is also Chetana. There is Chetana. When there is seeing, there is also Chetana, but it's just not
Every
me.
moment.
It's not I. And
Right.
I think that was the thing I took. It was, the monk says, there is no, there is only, there is intention, there is intention, there is no I, there is no me.
Right.
See,
no I that can observe intention, no I that can be aware of intention, no I that can focus on intention, no I that can make intention arise or make intention fall away,
and
no I to do anything at all, no I to select an object.
Okay.
I have perhaps now that Chetana intention has come up as a topic, perhaps it would be good, Tanajan, please excuse me if you could say some things about Chetana as Pachaya, how this Chetasika condition, because I think there can be confusion about, as I've heard, intending to do something, and there is a self. And so I think it would be helpful, please, to have some discussion about volition, Pachaya, as this condition. Thank you. How it conditions. Yes, thank you.
We are so very, very familiar with the word Dhamma, see, but without studying the truth that what is it? Is it real? What kind of reality it is? There is no idea about it as not self, just my karma or that person's karma and so on. We are used to understand the deed, the karma, but what is it? This is the most important thing, because there are many aspects of the truth. For example, at moment of seeing, is that Chetana, Cetasika? When we know about Cetasika, what is it? It's not Chitta, it experiences the same object. When it arises with that which sees, it experiences the same object. When it arises with hearing, it has the same object as the Chitta, which is the sound. But what is it? It's not Chitta. It's not that the chief of experiencing the characteristic of the rupa so clear, while the other mental factors which arise with it does not experience as clear as it, because it's not the chief, just the chief of experiencing. But the other Cetasika experiences the same object, but it has its own characteristic and its own function, each one. So first of all, is there intention, if we would like to use this word, because it can be known. Do you intend to do this? Or no, I don't have intention to do that. We just talk about whatever is there, but not clear at all, because no understanding of the truth of it. That's why from hearing the enlightenment's word, one begin to study very carefully about what is there in a moment, to understand that it's quite different from what we take it or used to think about it as before, like intention and karma. See, does anyone fit the two together, the karma and the intention? But from hearing, considering, what is it? See, intention is that a reality which has the characteristic of intending to do something. See, people are familiar with I intend to do. It's my intention and so on. But what is the characteristic of a reality which performs that function? That's why it arises with citta, with every citta. So it arises with kusala citta, ill intention, and it arises with wholesome citta, wholesome cetasika. And since it's the cause, it has been done as karma. So with all any deeds, cetana, cetasika, intention is that which perform the function to do in such and such manners, even speech or deeds and so on, heavy or not heavy at all, kusla or kusla, by such intention. So the karma is the citta, the cetasika, and it has to be only one cetasika, the cetana cetasika itself. Even attachment or aversion is there so very strong, but it's not intention. Just being attached so strong or very strong anger, but it does not have intention to do or to kill or to give or whatever by such and such moment. So there must be a reality which performs the function of intending to do. But when it is kusala and akusala, anyone can understand that. But when it takes vipaka, the result, because once the Dhamma has been done, it can condition its vipaka, not by itself, but by its nature as it has done as a cause. So it condition the result with cetana as result, not as kusala and akusala. That's why no one knows if Buddha didn't teach that even at moment of seeing, cetana is there, but it's not wholesome or unwholesome, so it's not known, but it has its function too. Just like the what you call it, the head pupil or student who tell the other to do when the teacher comes in and so on. See, the chief of the head of the student. See, so it's cetana which coordinate the other cetasikas arising to perform the function of experience the object according to their characteristic and their function.
And
Experience the object by way of life, by way of this life, and so on. See, each moment.
And Thanachan, we can understand that even whether it's a different kind of chitta by birth, by chati, whether it's kusala or akusala or vipaka, the result, or kiriya, there have to be intention all the time to perform the function of intending. Otherwise, chit and other chetasika cannot arise. So this is how Dhamma is. So we can understand the characteristic that like phassa, they need to be phassa with all kind of all movement of consciousness that contact the object. If there's no phassa, other chitta and chetasika also cannot arise.
That's why we learn to understand each reality little by little to really understand the characteristic of that by different manners as vipaka. It's not like as kusala and akusala. See, that's why when it is akusala intention, it can be known. Ill will, ill deed. But when it is the wholesome, it can be known too, just like giving, helping, and so on. But when it's the vipaka, like moment of birth, there must be citta, not only citta, but with other cetasikas arising together, performing the function. Even cetana arises and performs the function of coordinate, as when it coordinates the other cetasika to perform such and such wholesome or unwholesome deeds, as kusala or akusala. But when it's not kusala or akusala, it has to arise by kamma. So it performs its function as coordination, coordinate the other Dhamma which arises together to perform their function. Urge, see, the other to perform the function. So it's beyond any word, but only the understanding, each one as different one. And so very subtle, like lopa and chanda, see, until there can be a little more understanding about each one to let go the idea of self from anyone at all. So even there is no moving, there is cetana at any moment when citta arises.
And then after visible object, sees visible object, the nimitta, the mind or the thinking about it, then there are the bhavanga in between, or bhavanga whilst asleep.
And even right now, there must be bhavanga in between each process, right? That's why the characteristic of the citta cannot be known when it does not appear at all. The bhavanga citta is not known until when there is the difference appearing one by one. So from understanding, there must be bhavanga in between. What is meant by bhavanga? It does not experience any object of this world, not through six door, world or six doorways at all. So at moment when Chitta, which sees, reveal itself, show up as it's not the moment of hearing. What is that in between? See, can be nimitta with pavanka. How fast, how rapidity the arising and falling away hinders the truth. From life to life, only panya, which learn to understand different characteristics of each reality, can lead to more understanding of each one. For example, right now, no direct awareness of hardness, even there is touching. No direct awareness of that which experiences, even there is seeing or hearing of thinking. That's why we learn to understand that there are the other reality, which is different from moment when there is no awareness. And when it is direct awareness, it is not just being aware of giving or helping, but it is aware of the characteristic which usually is there, but not the same one, but it's there in a day, all the time, unknown, to be known at moment of being aware. And depending on how much understanding from hearing right now, to condition how much letting go or beginning to understand the truth that it's only that. Only that. What does it mean? See, when we heard in the beginning, only that is only that. But when we heard more and more and more, only that means that there is nothing with it at all. At all, when it's clear, see. But still, it is the nimitta of a reality. And this is the subtlety of reality that after the enlightenment, Buddha said, Dhammas are so very subtle, not easy to understand, but it can be understandable. So he taught.
Thank you so very much, Ajahn. Such marvelous words to hear, have you further elucidate on Chetana and how this Cetasika conditions the Chitta, because it's a relief to not have to effort to intend, I must study and so forth. It arises quite naturally. It's one of the 7 universals. Thank you very much, Ajahn.
And it is Panya which knows that. See, no one. Panya understands the truth.
Yes, thank you, Tanajan.
Question for John. John, earlier you said that the conventional idea of Chetana is not the reality, and that is true for sure. But what I'm thinking about is, there must be realities for the concept, for any concept. So when there is the idea about having an intention to do something, does that mean that the characteristic of Chetana must be there? When someone notices that there is the intention to speak or the intention to move the feet or whatever, can we say that if the moments that Chetana appears?
Well, I don't think we can, because that intention is just a kind of thinking, a wish to do something, a plan to do something. So if I say, okay, I'm going to raise my right hand now, and I do it, there's no reason why Chetana is any more likely to be appearing at that moment than this moment when I'm not thinking about specifically intending to do something.
But not all thinkings are identified as the intention to do something. Like when we think about the weather or some things, we don't say that I intend to think about it. But sometimes we do say that I intend something like that.
Yes, but what I'm saying is the reality of that moment is actually just a kind of thinking, one of many different kinds of thinking. Just like we have the idea that making a decision is a specific kind of mental factor, if you like, but it's not, is it? Making a decision is just another moment of thinking. So if I decide, okay, I am going to do such and such, or making a decision is different from acting on the decision. And so having an intention to do something is just another aspect of the mind or processes that go on, that are going on all the time.
We cannot say that I intend to see, because that is something that we have no idea. That intention is there at the moment of seeing, but there are situations like doing something when it arises with kusala or akusala. There's something that we can identify as intention. So I wonder what makes us identify that as intention.
I would say it's the conventional notion of intention that makes us identify that as intention. Because there is a definite conventional notion of intention, isn't there? Sorry.
You go ahead, please.
The mental factor of intention is arising with every moment of citta. And when there is the conventional idea of intending to do something, there's no reason to think the mental factor is any more prominent or appearing any stronger than at other moments.
Yes, that's for sure. But like sometimes it can be noticed. Normally, there's no noticing that there's any intention at all, although intention is there.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's like noticing different moments of the thinking process. It's like noticing when one, as I used it before, making a decision. It's just another moment of thinking, although we attach importance to it. And likewise, these moments of a deliberate intention to do something are, again, aspects of the thinking process. And so, although they are correctly called intention conventionally, it doesn't mean there's any characteristic there to be known. The characteristic belongs to the reality. Okay, the conventional term is used because there's no other way of labeling realities and their characteristics. So thinking, for example, and the mental factor that is called thinking, samasankappa, there's no connection really in terms of characteristic. Effort, the same thing. We could say that intention to do something is, when we talk about making an effort to do something, that doesn't mean the characteristic of virya is being experienced at that time. It's the conventional notion of effort, sure. And it's correctly called effort conventionally. But it's not possible from that to know the characteristic of virya.
Tam, what I'm going to say is that even like, for example, seeing now, and we know that it sees, it's not just single moment of seeing, but many moments of seeing, and we know by way of nimitta. And also like whether it's intention or virya, or concentration, for example, arise with all kind of moment of consciousness, but the characteristic of concentration does not appear. But when there is if chitta that have the same object for a long time, such like continuously, then the characteristic of concentration appear that is concentration. So we can that can be appeared to panya.
Yes, like even not appear to panya, but like people do say that am I very concentrated or something. Just like not necessarily panya, because it can be identified with I, but what I mean is the characteristic is there, not understood, but is there to be known, like as nimitta, like you said. It's what I'm thinking about.
Well, I think concentration is another example. We could say that when we concentrate on something, that is a particular kind of mental state that we all familiar with, and we understand what is meant. But does the characteristic of ekagata, cetasika, appear at that moment?
No.
I don't think it does. It's just the conventional idea of concentration that appears. So it's not really directly related to the mental factor that has the same name.
So John, what did you mean when you said just now that when there's cetana and there's thinking, which is often mistaking that moment of thinking for cetana, that in some instance you said it's correctly naming it, correctly referring to it as cetana. What do you mean there? I thought you were saying the same thing as Tham was saying, that there is the characteristic of cetana to be able to correctly identify or call cetana. Isn't that the same thing?
Sorry, I just can't quite recall the incident you're referring to. So I didn't mean to say that anyway.
I think he was just referring to conventional usage, like conventional usage. I'm intending to cook dinner now, or I'm intending to do this, or I'm making an effort. It's just conventional usage, nothing to do with understanding the realities at all.
Oh, not understanding.
Correct conventional usage, but not understanding anything about the realities.
So that sounds like what Tham is saying. She's making the distinction between moments when, say, for example, seeing, there is no idea of intending to see or talking about the weather, but she's saying that there are moments such as that when I intend to move, the characteristic of intention seem to appear, even if it's not to panya, that we are able to identify that this is intention. So there's intention now to move, as against intention to just talk about the weather.
But it's just a conventional idea. It's not the reality of intention or the reality of effort. So it's a kind of idea that anyone who has not even heard anything about the teachings can know about intention or effort, but it's not the reality, which is anatta. Like even when we say now, I intend to be kind, or I intend to make a gift, if there's no understanding of Dhamma, it's still I that is intending. So it's not the understanding of any reality as it is as anatta.
Like, for example, more common one, feeling. feeling appear like domanas appear, and we can say that domanas, a person can know that, oh, I'm having that unpleasant feeling, but that is not appear to panya. That is because many moment of domanas appear.
They say I've been having painful feeling all day, but no understanding at all of what painful feeling is. Just for a moment, just the reality.
It's agreed that not understanding, but although it's not understood as a reality, but its characteristic does appear, like when we are happy, it's different from when we are unhappy, something like that.
Yeah, but we know that already. There's nothing new to be learned when it happens again.
What I think Tham is asking, that characteristic appear to ignorance, is that's what maybe right?
Well,
No.
if we're using the term characteristic to mean characteristic of reality, then it's not relevant unless one was so confused between intention and concentration, for example, and had no idea how to differentiate the two. Then you could say, well, noticing when it's intention and when it's in concentration, in theory, could be some assistance, but I don't really think so. So,
but noticing that, but that is with akusala, not to panya.
It's not the question.
Well, Tam's not suggesting it's to panya.
She's not saying that.
No, she's just saying, is it helpful to understand better what the characteristic would be like if it appeared? Is that right, Tam?
Yes, like although it's not understood, but even when we talked about the conventional idea of something, there is the instance when that chittasika, something like that, is more apparent than others.
Well, that's the question. Is it more apparent, or is it all mixed up with other things too? So,
for sure, mixed up.
Question, you see, concentration, as we understand it conventionally, is like focusing on the same thing for an extended period of time. And actually, there's no same thing in those. It's all different moments anyway, different objects. But the concentration, that is the mental factor, particular mental factor, has nothing to do with that, is it? Because there's ekaggata even when one is totally distracted and all over the place. So I don't know that it helps.
Yeah, I think it helps in the sense that because we all start from ignorance, right? So if we hear about realities, there's no other ways to know what is talked about by way of what we already know. Like when we hear about effort or about concentration, we hear the explanations that what effort is, and there is the examples of when there is effort, or the examples of when there's concentration. So thanks to that description, and we relate to all those situations, and we can a little bit know about what is talked about.
I'm going to ask Ajahn to come in on this because I think it's a very important and useful subject to discuss. That is the extent to which conventional effort, or what was your first intention, can help to understand the reality of the characteristic of the reality. Thank you. Are you there, Ajahn?
Yes. So the question is about the story, situation, or reality. or what's true and what is not true?
I think about the relationship between them, between the stories and the realities.
Okay, so at moment of thinking, is there anything seen or heard at the moment of thinking?
No.
So we learn to understand what are there in the 6 doorways. Otherwise, we cannot understand the absolute of each doorway at all. They are mixed up to be something like situation, people, and thing as before. But to understand that actually there are only 6 doorways to experience objects. Even there is Pawanka, moment of not experiencing any object through the 6th doorway, but there must be Citta. It arises to experience, to understand any reality as it is, no matter in what situation, sleeping or waking or doing or thinking, performing, anything. There must be the reality, but they arise as false way and do not show up altogether as each one. They like the mix altogether. That's why we learn to understand that what we take is just the nimitta of that which arises and falls away so rapidly. That's why it's not easy to understand each one, because it does not show up like Cetana, Cetasika at moment of seeing. No one knows about it because the object is there as the object. So nothing can be seen or understood because it is not there. Even to understand, it has to be the moment when it's there. For example, thinking, can it be understood at moment of seeing? Not at all. And seeing, can it be understood while there is just thinking about it? Impossible. That's why we talk about the realities which arise together, even they are by different conditions to be different ones, but they are there performing the function. Who knows? It's not just Citta which arises and experiences the object. The other reality is conditioned to arise, to be conditioned for seeing moment to arise, and they perform their function separately. They do not know each other at all. See? And this is Dhamma, one by one, arising and falling away. So no matter in what situation, when we understand the difference between the 6 doorways, the 6 doorways, the 6 objects, there can be a little more understood of the truth of that action. It's in split second and then gone with the firm and strong ignorance, taking it for something, because no understanding of the truth, that what is there is gone, never to return. The dream world about everything which is gone, as it's still there, something like situation and so on. That's why understanding the truth of reality can understand any situation, no doubt. That's why let's talk about just one reality at a time, or one doorway at a time, depending on whatever you'd like to talk about, just one at a time. So what is now? 1, memory, story, situation, what doorway?
Concentration.
Okay. Is it a reality? Is it real?
Yes.
Yes.
What is it?
The Cetasika.
We can say that it's a Cetasika, but there are many Cetasikas. And when we say it's real, it means that one knows the moment when it's there as its characteristic. See, so it's not just follow the word, but to understand the truth. It's quite different. Because no matter we talk about Cetana in many aspects, by way of Kusala, Akusala, Vipaka, and Kriya, they are different, even the function, see, and also dependent on the Cetasikas, which arise with it too. That's why only one in samsara and never to return at all. each moment, no matter it is Chetana or Phassa or whatever. This is to understand that actually there's no self, but it's so strong ignorance that it's quite very, very difficult to have no more wrong understanding, which take this for permanent self or thing. That's why just learn to understand. So Panya can work its way to understand wisely and more subtle for each word. For example, that which experience, not only citta, but also cetasika, the mental factor, and that which is the chief of just experience the object, see. And know one thing about it in a day, even right now, but we talk about lopa and dosa and concentration and so on. That's why, what about the innermost? It's there, always there, while the other just arise and falls away with it sometimes. That's why we talk about concentration, right? And what about if we think about the truth, one-pointedness, cetasika? Why? Because citta can experience only one object at a time because of this reality, which is one-pointedness on just that very object, no other object at all. When it arises with a moment of citta, that citta experience only the object that it is one-pointed as the object by what we say, eka kata cetasika. Eka is one. Or we can say concentration of focusing on whatever, any use, which can condition the understanding little by little to make it known. What we mean is only that reality which is so real. And when it is the kusala and akusala, it can be known little by little. But when it's not kusala and akusala, as when it is vipaka and kriya, it's impossible to know because it does not show up, it does not appear. But depends on conditions who know for particular one to have such and such as object, who knows? So no expectation. That's why it appears as anatta. When it's clear, it's more anatta, just there by conditions unexpectedly. See, so even one tries very hard to experience such and such object, all depends on condition. At that moment, Buddha pointed out how many cetasikas are there, at what level, by accumulation of different ones, and so on. So there is a reality which is one pointedness on one object only. Otherwise, citta can experience many objects at once, but it's impossible. One citta with one cetasika, which is one pointed at that moment to the object, is there. For citta and the other cetasika arising together to experience only one object. And even one object is experienced by different realities with different function and different characteristics. And we learn to understand each different one, like phassa is not vedana feeling, it's not cetana, it's not ekakata, chivitindriya, and so on. Unknown when it does not appear. But who knows what would appear as the object of the highly developed panya, right understanding, unexpected pop-up. Even right now, no, it is not known because panya is not strong enough. But when panya is strong enough, it is so natural right now, but pop up to that very moment to make sure that it's anatta. No one can do anything at all, only by conditions. So we talk about the reality as citta and cetasikas, different ones. So now one-pointedness or ekakata cetasika arises with its citta. It is the reality which is pointed to one object, just one object. At the object which citta and other cetasikas arising together experience. but it does not perform the function of phassa. See how subtle it is.
So please excuse me, this may be backtracking a bit, Tanajan, to state that I intend, for example, to do a walking meditation, and there will be awareness of intention with each step, and this will condition Panya understanding to arise, is a lot of stories, thinking, akusala, and ignorance.
When it's strong understanding, can it be what you say, concentration or what, panya or what?
No, it's just wrong understanding.
Is it right to try to find out or to do?
No. Panya understanding cannot be willed to arise or no. It's
And when panya understands, it understands anothness, nothing and no one at all.
yes.
What is what? For example, seeing is seeing right now. We don't have to wait or do anything to understand it because it's there already. So how can there be anyone try so hard to understand it? But
Yes.
listening carefully about the truth of it and beginning to understand what is true and what is not true.
Yes, there is no self. This idea, these Panya eradicates the fetters that lead to rebirth, samsara. Yes. Thank you, Ajahn. Thank you, Tanajan.
And I think, Tom, if it's not the understanding of Dharma that appears as Dharma, when it's the understanding of, say, concentration or effort as my concentration or my effort that's appearing, it's not any understanding at any level. And in the deepest sense, even when it's the understanding in the development of samatha, of kusala, for example, because it's not understood as a reality, as anatta, in the deepest sense, the Buddha said, even this is the wrong path. Any kusala that is not understood as Dhamma, as anatta. Even jhana, when it's not understood as conditioned reality, anatta, is said to be, in this sense, the wrong path.
Not the path to lead out from samsara.
Because it's piling more bricks in the cycle of samsara. So the only kind of understanding that's of any value is the understanding of
Dhamma.
the truth of Dhamma right now as anatta.
And even in samatha, because the consciousness, because the object, one particular object appeared to consciousness succession, and the characteristic of concentration appear, but that is still not the understanding, the concentration itself. That is the concentration. That is Dhamma.
It's still taken from my concentration.
And when it's wrong, can it be sati?
We're talking about concentration, right? Or
No, samatha, but say that samatha. See, right or wrong. So what is samatha? It has to be known from the very beginning. Any understanding which can grow has to be from the very beginning. Right from the very beginning and wrong from the very beginning. the wrong understanding cannot lead to right understanding because it's wrong. Talking about sati, but it's not sati because wrong understanding of sati. That's why we have to understand from the very beginning, what is it? Is it real? If it's real, it has to be a characteristic just for be such reality, not the other reality. For example, can sati be panya?
No.
Can ekakata cetasika be panya?
No.
See, can right understanding be wrong understanding? Or can wrong understanding be right understanding? See? And the most important thing, what is right and what is wrong, has to be investigated carefully. Why is wrong? Not just, oh, it's wrong, or oh, this is right, but why? Not understanding what is there now and try to understand it by doing something. What is right and what is wrong.
The moment of doing it's wrong because nothing can be done.
And when it's right understanding, it can understand whenever it arises, no matter what object is there.
Yes.
And how can walking, sitting, can condition right understanding of what is there now? No reason.
No, no reason. Only have to hear true word of Buddha only.
Although,
And
sorry. Although panya can arise at any moment, to think that if I do, for example, I'm going to intend and do this walking meditation and that will facilitate the arising of panya is just ignorance and wrong practice. But listening to the Dhamma and having this discussion can condition panya to arise.
Jungkook, I think that point that you made earlier on about Silabbata Paramasa, it's very subtle. It's a very good point. And that this issue, to some extent, at least, seems to hinge on this point that, ritualizing a practice in whatever manner we know is unhelpful. But this is very subtle to understand. And it's easy to get tangled up between what we think is Dhamma Panya, and really it still may be a type of Silabbata Paramasa. So I think this point is a very subtle one. It's a very useful one to consider carefully. Otherwise, it's easy to go down the wrong track. But yeah, that is subtle though. So we need to be very, very careful about how we understand Dhamma. And it seems to me that it's still possible to go down the wrong track when we don't consider very, very carefully, what is the correct way.
That's why no rush to understand the truth of this moment. It depends on conditions, to hear more, to understand more, to let go more.
I mean, Dhamma is very hard. Like Sundara, you're saying, it's easy to go to the wrong path, but yes, of course, because what have been accumulated in samsara is wrong view and ignorance and attachment, clinging to the wrong view. So it's not special that not unusual that it will arise normally in daily life. Sila para wrong practice.
And
Yeah, I think
there is no
Please.
understanding yet about what is right and what is wrong.
Hmm.
People just go to meditate. But what is the result?
Hmm.
What for? Why sit? Why walk in such and such manners?
I think too what Haji said there, what you said, Haji, is quite true, is that because the accumulations of avijja, ignorance, is so strong that the likelihood of silabbata paramasa is indicated much of the time. So, you know, what you're talking about, Tanajana, is great subtlety, and we need to consider, there needs to be the consideration of Dhamma very, very, very carefully. Otherwise, it's so easy to misunderstand.
Actually, wrong practice occurs more than we know in every day.
And also, Sundara, wrong practice is a Dhamma. And we are just thinking in terms of a situation such as rituals as we think about it. But actually, it's a Dhamma with a particular characteristic and function, and that we do not know.
I think it's time to finish. So thank you very much, Jan Satbika.